Every society needs its whistleblowers. They are a crucial check on the power of governments, corporations, and other powerful organizations.
Government agencies really do connive to do nasty things to their citizens. Big corporations really do cheat the system to try to gain profit. This happens a lot, just enough that when you hear a conspiracy theory, you got to think, yeah, okay, I'm going to at least consider the idea, all right? So I'm sympathetic to that.
It began in August 2021. As the country responded to the pandemic, the Department of Defense ordered all service members to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
To date, we've administered over 3.3 million doses to eligible DoD personnel, with 58% of our active duty service members having had at least one dose.
The vaccine was said to be fully approved by the FDA, or so it appeared. Sam Shumate, a recently retired chief warrant officer with over 20 years in the U.S. Army, alongside other courageous whistleblowers, would not stand silent.
For the last 4 years, I've been working along with some other folks to push back against a lot of unlawful activity that took place.
My name is Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Long. I am an aerospace and occupational medicine physician in the United States Army. I hold a master's in public health. I'm responsible for overseeing anywhere between 3,600 and 4,000 service members on our post.
These whistleblowers exposed the truth. Service members, coerced into taking vaccines falsely labeled as FDA approved, were subjected to medical products that violated the law.
The person who pushed the vaccine onto the Department of Defense was Terry Adram, acting under Secretary of Defense for Defense Health Agency, and she was the one who pushed out the memo that stated that the EUA and the FDA versions of Pfizer's vaccine could be and will be used interchangeably.
She had absolutely no legal basis to make such a statement.
There are a ton of statutes that were violated here, but ultimately, U.S. Code 1107 Alpha governs the administration of any kind of experimental drug on Department of Defense personnel.
What's an example of leveraging policy to promote vaccine take rates?
Sure.
As said in the memo.
Sure. Our commanders have wide authority to use personnel policies.
One case I know of was a service member who was stationed in Korea, and his mom was dying of cancer, and he was about to get on a plane and come home to visit his mom. And they stopped him at the airport and they said, "You can't get on that plane unless you get vaccinated." He said no. And they went to him week after week. "Hey, how's mom doing? You want to ever see mom again? You got to get vaccinated." They didn't let him go home until after his mom died.
They have control over leave, so they can give liberal leave, for example, to those who get vaccinated.
The president is the only person who could have mandated this legally. He would have had to have done so under some sort of national security purview. So it specifically states that national security has to have been compromised to a point where not taking the vaccine is more of a threat than whatever the national security issue is. So a lot of people interpret that as some sort of war or contingency or whatever. But that was never done. The president never waived a service member's informed consent. The Secretary of Defense pushed through a memo that stated the vaccine could only be administered under mandate if it was FDA approved.
These were not harmless mistakes, not bureaucratic oversights. This was a deliberate violation of U.S. law.
On August 23, 2021, Pfizer's Comirnaty was licensed. It was given its BLA licensing. The people that were ordering Comirnaty after it appeared on the scene, after May 21st of 2021, the first proponent to do this was the Coast Guard. They were the first ones to identify this batch, lot number 1331, that was coming out of what they claimed was Fort Detrick. Okay, so we had some people run this down, And Chad Coppin, Lieutenant 03 type in the Coast Guard, was one of the individuals. He was the individual who ran this information down. What he found out after contacting Pfizer themselves and telling them the batch number, he has it on audio, we have evidence of this, is they stated that was actually produced in France.
Thanks for calling Pfizer.
Yeah, hi. I had a question about a lot number of a product that my medical staff had provided for me, and I was trying to figure out the manufacturing location and dates for it.
What's that lot number?
The lot number is FW1331.
I think I found it. It's manufactured in France.
Just France?
Just France.
Is there any way to track any shipping or locations it came through?
No, sir.
The issue is you cannot just make this drug anywhere you want. It has to be approved and made in BLA authorized facilities.
That's a felony. That's fraud.
So this is an article from the Washington Times. This is it says Team Biden must pay for using military as lab rats for COVID-19 shots.
Service members should never be experimented on. I think a lot of people have to understand clinical research trials are extremely expensive for a pharmaceutical company. You're looking at hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars to do the clinical research, to get a drug to market. So imagine how alluring it is to use service members where you have a single electronic medical record system. You're not paying for their labs, you're not paying for their imaging, and you're not paying for any disability that occurs in the course of a clinical research trial. I finally went into the Defense Medical Epidemiology database, and I found just catastrophic data. I ran ICD codes for hyperthyroidism, thyroid cancer, all of those skyrocketing.
We have substantial data showing that we saw, for example, miscarriages increased by 300% over the 5-year average, almost 300% increase in cancer over the 5-year average. Neurological issues which would affect our pilots, over 1,000% increase. 1,000.
10 times. That's 10 times the rate, and obviously that
83,000 per year. 82,000 per year to 863,000 in 1 year. Our soldiers are being experimented on, injured, and sometimes possibly killed.
I handed that information over to Colonel Pete Chambers, Major Sam Sigaloff, and Lieutenant Mark Bayshaw, and presented that data to Senator Johnson.
Our government officials talked about them not being particularly honest, not being particularly transparent. We invited them all here. Representatives from the heads of the CDC, Secretary of Defense Austin, Secretary of Labor Walsh, Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg, FDA Acting Commissioner Woodcock, HHS Secretary Becerra, NIAID Director Fauci, NIH Director Collins, together with the CEOs of Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, and BioNTech. None of them showed up.
In the course of the last 2 years, I have seen more pathology than I have in my entire medical career. It has been a whole litany of things, tons of cardiac issues, myocarditis, pericarditis, arrhythmias, AFib. We have about 5 cases of AFib in the brigade.